everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show that rejects Barney Stinson's notion that newer is always better. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we are talking about some old shows that got a new... Listen, we could start over, but then you guys don't get the full experience of me just being an idiot. So you're welcome, world.
See, Matt just made fun of me for messing up words, but that was before we started recording, so you didn't have to hear that.
And Brian will not miss a beat this entire time. What I was meaning to say was these shows got a new coat of paint, and I don't know why that was such a hard sentence to get out, but it really was.
It's because you just came back from vacation.
That's true. I'm going to blame it on that. Guys, I got in yesterday at like 3 in the morning, and I woke up at like 7:30 for work. And some of you guys may be like, 4.5 hours of sleep. What a life of luxury you lead. But, you know, I'm not crazy. I usually like my 8 hours. So, and we're not the type of show, too, that, you know, it's like there's some podcasters, like they're very specific about how they do things. Like if they mess up, like, okay, we're going to do that part over, we're going to re-roll it, and we're going to just edit, and no one's going to know. No, we're a lot more unfiltered than that. We edit a little bit, and by we, I mean Brian.
I was just going to say, have you ever edited anything for this podcast?
I did movies on a Monday, and then I'm like, I need to start my own podcast where I'm not editing. I'm like, hey, Brian, you're so good at everything. And I've always thought
that, like, when I'm editing this podcast, I have power because I know when I send it to you, you might listen to a little bit of it, but I know you're not going to sit and watch the whole thing, and then you're just going to post it because posting it is your job. I could just, in the middle of it, be like, Matt sucks. This is all of his private information.
You easily could like go over it, be like, hey guys, Brian here. Matt's about to go on a tangent that's really stupid. I'm sorry about this. Here you go.
I could, and I would if that wasn't more work to do.
See, that's why I can trust you, because maybe I don't trust your intentions, but I trust your laziness.
Very well put.
Well, this was the year of like big reunions or reboots or whatever, because we got a couple different types of qualifications for these.
Yeah.
Are they all like, what is it, like revivals, reunions, and reboots? Hey, that actually would be a good title. If you're looking at this and you see that title, I did it.
Not to burst your bubble, but I think we already have a podcast from very early on called Reboots, Revivals, and all that. That was way back. We talked about like Fuller House and Girl Meets World.
Listen, if we can do a whole episode about shows that are rebooted from a long time ago, I can reuse the title of an episode we did 3 years back. All right?
It's probably more like 4 years back, but yeah.
Something like that.
But
well, there's a bunch of different ones that came out this year, and so we're like, let's talk about them, and we're going to try and like warn you of spoilers ahead of time. We'll have everything on the table to be able to talk about, because some of this stuff, you know, we might really want to talk about and not leave it out. But we'll just try and let you know when we're getting to a spot like, hey, skip ahead 2 minutes if you don't want to hear this.
Yeah, well, I think you should know. Once we go into the section of every show, I'd say if you don't want to hear about that show, maybe skip ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like for all of you people who aren't Muppets fans, guess what? We're going to start off with Muppets because we got the Muppet Show back. And Brian, like we both watched it, but Brian, I'll let you have first crack at it as the Muppet guru of the podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, you can say technically there's no like official Muppet canon, but they do like reference in the show as if it's the same show from 50 years ago. So I'll think of it as a reboot. And it's a little concerning because the whole thing that we thought was, I know they want to make more episodes. They want this to be like the pilot to a new Muppet Show. But it was like, if this special gets good ratings, they may bring it back. Well, they got good ratings, and it's been like 3 months, and there's been no word. So I don't have high hopes for them bringing them back, but I would love if they did.
Yeah, and maybe a part of that is figuring out Seth Rogen's schedule, because he's very busy. And even though he's just an executive producer, I feel like he's the name that gets this off the ground.
Yeah.
And so he's still working on the studio season 2, which is more passion project. He's doing some stuff with movies and directing, and I'm sure that's actually probably why he wasn't in the second Mario movie, is
Yeah.
that he's had just a busy plate the last couple years, and
Yeah.
maybe that's just going to be one of the casualties, is that he can't dedicate what he wants to for this,
Yeah.
even though it's not all him, of course.
Yeah. And I mean, and you need like good. I mean, at this point, there's no shortage of great guest stars who would be like, "Yes, put me on. I don't care what I'm doing if it's with the Muppets."
Yeah. Yeah, and especially like even though these young ones that you'd be like, oh, they're they didn't grow up with Muppets, but it's like still we got Sabrina Carpenter, and she's a
Yeah.
huge icon right now, and like so I don't think that we would have
No.
problems getting these celebrities, even though they're more modern and younger, to
Yeah.
be on the show.
Well, on the original Muppet Show, Brooke Shields did it as like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Of course, that's one of the 2 episodes you can't find on Disney Plus, but because it's all about Alice in Wonderland, and I think it's like a rights issue.
Oh, sure.
But this special was a lot of kind of what you want to see. You want to see a mix of the old and the new. We had Muppet Labs, we had Statler and Waldorf heckling, but then you still had new stuff like the pigs and wigs thing, and throwing Pepe in there was hilarious. That was one of the best things. I think Pepe is one of the best post Muppet Show Muppets.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Pepe and Bobo.
Yeah, and it's funny, Bobo had the line, "It's good to be back." You weren't on the Muppet Show, Bobo.
He's my favorite.
Yeah.
Angie actually, when we were driving last night, she asked me, "Hey, who's my favorite Muppet?" And I told her Gonzo, but he's like my favorite of like the core group.
Yeah.
Because I would consider just like those main 5 or 6 as the core group.
Yeah.
And then all these ancillary characters. And I probably like Bobo more than honestly Gonzo or any other one. He's just relegated a little bit more to the side character. So Bobo and Pepe are up there, and Statler and Waldorf. But if I'm talking about that main group, I like Gonzo.
Main group Gonzo for me. If we're going a little bit deeper down, I'd say New Zealand. I always love seeing him pop up.
They use him the right amount.
Yeah.
Because Boomerang Fish is a very specific market of people.
Yeah. And it's funny, you watch a show and there's a lot of characters that are you see, but they don't get to really do anything. Like the Electric Mayhem is just there at the final number, or the Swedish Chef doesn't really get to do anything. But that's kind of the point of this special, especially at the end. They made a point of showing so many characters backstage, and that was a plot point. Scooter overbooked the show. When Kermit couldn't put everybody on.
Yeah.
I think that was also them trying to show the Disney executives, like, look, we have a deep bench of characters. We can only put so many on this one special, but you give us, 20 episodes, we can cycle all these guys in. We have content for you ready to go.
Yeah, well,
and
what was the failed Disney Plus show with the Muppets where it was like it was kind of like their own little thing of bringing it back, but it was like that.
Oh, Muppets Now?
Muppets what?
Muppets Now, the one that was really just disjointed, came out during COVID.
Yes, that's the one. The one that really made me not like Honeydew. Like I hated what they did with Honeydew.
Me too. That's special. Ironically, again, the part with Seth Rogen and Fozzie was great. Everything else was not that great.
Yeah, and from that, we did have like plenty of Swedish Chef in that one. So it's like, it's fine that he didn't have anything to do in this episode. It was great, like you said, to bring Seth Rogen back and to use that gag of, we got to cut you. And actually, I think it would be hilarious if we had going forward more of these. If there were one-offs like this, that was like a running gag. They kept bringing Seth Rogen back and they kept having him in for like one scene, and I was like, sorry, you can't be on this episode. Finding new ways to cut him.
Speaking of running gags, I thought if they ever brought it back, I in my mind just thought of a perfect outline for an episode that they should do, and that is going all the way back. So the second season of the original Muppet Show, which would have been 1977, Steve Martin was a guest star, and the gag on that show is he shows up. And Kermit's like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, we canceled it because we're doing auditions for new acts." And the whole show was just like an empty theater, and there would have all these weird acts coming through. And every now and then, Steve Martin would be like, "Well, I'm here. How about I sing a song or do something?" But he's kind of annoyed that he didn't get to be on the Muppet Show within that world. So I'd love to see them bring him back. They're like, sorry, it took 50 years, but I suppose you're here. And then the power goes out, and it's something similar where they're just running around doing stuff backstage. And then at the end of the show, the power would come back on, and he'd be like, all right, I get to do my number. And Kermit would be like, oh, sorry, we're out of time. Thanks for coming by, Steve Martin.
And sure, that's a like we've seen that joke used before. That
Yeah.
like what I was saying with Seth Rogen or like him, but it's still fun. It's still a funny way to lampshade your talent that you're able to book.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that would be a deep cut reference, but you could do a flashback to just show the audience, hey, this is what happened, and now he's back again. He still doesn't really get to be on the show. That would be hilarious, and you know he'd be game for that.
See, if we were done talking about Muppets, that would have been a perfect segue into talking about the Scrubs reboot of like showing flashbacks. But I got more to say about Muppets, so sorry everyone. We trade out convenience for content.
Yeah.
And so actually one of the things that my kids really loved, they loved the segment of the Rizzo and the other rats singing Blinding Lights. That was like their favorite part. And I don't know why it worked as well as it did, because I'm like, really, this isn't like super inspired or something like that, but it just ends up being really funny. I don't know what it was about it that was so great, but we all like really liked that section.
Mm-hmm. No, that was good, and it was definitely a big coming out for the new performer of Rizzo, Bradley Freeman Jr. Outside of a couple videos on Disney Plus, on like Disney's Facebook. That was his first outing as Rizzo.
Yeah. And then we also had Maya Rudolph in there as well, flirting with who's the monster Muppet that she was flirting with?
The Beautiful Day Monster. Goes back.
That's his name, the Beautiful Day Monster.
Yeah, going back to the '60s. He's one of the oldest characters. It was a sketch where he tries to ruin a little girl's day, and then her positivity ends up defeating him. It's hard to describe, but go look up that sketch. But that's where a lot of these monsters didn't really have a name, but so they get called the name of the sketch they were in. So that's why you got the Beautiful Day Monster.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, and as we said, I love the pigs and wigs part. It was my favorite. Just throwing Pepe in there. Otherwise, that sketch would have fallen flat. And the dynamic of Sabrina Carpenter and Miss Piggy was also really good. I know you're not a huge Miss Piggy fan, but I think they handled that really well.
Yeah, to really highlight the similarities between Sabrina Carpenter's diva personality on stage and Miss Piggy, I thought was the way to do that.
Yeah, and I love that. Yeah, my parents watched you. Their parents watched you. Okay, I get it. I'm old.
That's good. All right, anything else about Muppets?
I could go on, but I think we've talked about everything we really needed to for that special.
Sounds good. Well, let's get into Scrubs, and again with some of the spoilers here of Scrubs, we're going to talk about the full season because there's some really good stuff that happens in this season. Before we get into like the spoiler stuff, just some general things. First of all, when you have a show like this that you bring back, and we're going to talk again about a similar like Malcolm in the Middle, and you know, there's something else we're talking. Maybe not, or like the Muppets we just did. Yeah. You are trying to recapture a feeling of the show. Like there is this intangible, and it's kind of why people are so against AI in a creative medium, is because AI can't capture that feeling. You know, they can look at the data and they can figure out like, how do I tell these same jokes or whatever, but there's this sense that you get of the original language, so to speak, of the show. You have to modernize it. And so I think all the shows that we're talking about today, like Muppet Show and then Scrubs now, and even when we get to Malcolm in the Middle, all of them actually did a really good job of modernizing the language of their show to be good for a modern audience, not necessarily apologize for some of the questionable content that they might have had, but to update it for this generation while still letting their characters remain true to themselves. I think Dr. Cox and Todd were two of the biggies of like, we have to address it, but we aren't gonna like pull it back, you know?
Yeah. It's like, because like these characters existed in a world for Scrubs in the early 2000s. Well, life's different in the 2020s now. So it's going to be, like you said, with Dr. Cox having that HR person, like you can't just yell at people anymore, and having him, like, I wouldn't even have thought of that, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and to make her be kind of weird the way she is, and she was a unique character as well, and so she fits just right in of a
Yeah.
little bit of the absurdity, but can still be a little bit of the audience surrogate of like, yeah, a bully like this wouldn't get along in a workplace in the modern setting anymore. So it does make sense to have to address that right away.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the characters just fell right in their same character. I don't think anybody felt like they didn't have it anymore.
Yeah. And like Todd's thing of like, and that's what I like what they did with Todd versus like say Barney Stinson in the How I Met Your Mother or How I Met Your Father spinoff.
Yeah.
Whereas like they went overboard in kind of apologizing for his actions. It's like I get that that's such a hard character with it
Yeah.
didn't age well in any regard. And Todd doesn't age well either, but they were still able to like make it very clearly of like, okay, he's still, to use the modern term, he's still very sex positive, but he's very much about the consent and like
Yeah.
respecting people's boundaries while being that way. And that's fine for the modern audience.
Yeah, and I think to keep Todd true to his character, I think the more important, the most important thing is outside of surgery, he has to be stupid.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's the way I am too. You know, whenever
Yeah.
I'm not having surgery performed on me. The one that
Yeah.
and I think both I don't I don't know who's dead in this, so I'll say this and you can correct me with the information. But
Yeah.
I know that they didn't bring back Kelso and Ted, and I think Ted the actor is deceased, right? And Kelso's
Yes.
actor is still alive.
Yep. So that's why they named the bar they go to Lloyd's Bar after Sam Lloyd, who played Ted.
Gotcha. Okay, but then one big thing with Ted's character is his depression and his suicidal tendencies, and they played that for laughs. And that was one thing of like, we're not going to touch it, not only because Sam Lloyd is dead, but
Yeah.
also because like, you know, we don't need to bring that back up. That's something that again, if we're looking at like stuff that doesn't age well,
Well,
we're in a very different mindset now than we were 20 years ago. So they just
yeah.
don't bring that thing back. That would be the only other questionable thing that they would feel like, how do we update this for the modern audience if we had Sam Lloyd in the show?
Well, I think if Sam Lloyd were alive, he absolutely would have come back at least for a cameo as Ted. And I think you can do the sad sack without it going to that level. I think sad sack without getting to suicidal levels is basically Toby from The Office. You kind of
Yeah.
have him be that way.
And
as far
especially
as
with
okay,
Bill Lawrence's outing on the show Shrinking and
yeah,
talking about like mental health stuff on that show and how and the severity they treat that with, it
mhm,
would feel disingenuous to then turn around in this show and take those shots again, the same ones that we
yeah,
saw from 20 years ago.
yep. But if you want to see a really funny little extra tag, look up it's called the Scrubs, or look up Scrubs Reunion on Cougar Town, which was like maybe 10, 15 years ago. Bill Lawrence's show Cougar Town had a lot of Scrubs alums on there, and they actually brought Sam Lloyd on as his character as Ted, and he's sitting there in front of Sarah Chalk and Krista Miller playing their new characters, and they're like, everybody looks like someone I used to work with. And then they bring like Zach Braff as the pizza guy. And the one that really gets him is on Cougar Town, Courtney Cox's dad was played by Ken Jenkins, Dr. Kelso. And then he walks in, and of course that freaks him out. And the Todd is there. And it's just, if they got, how many Scrubs alums can we get in one scene for a little gag? So look that up on YouTube if you get a chance.
Nice.
But
So now some major spoilers about the whole arc here, so you can
yeah,
scoot ahead 5 to 10 minutes or so, and we'll be on
yeah,
the next thing. But I'm gonna talk a couple complaints with this because like the complaints are nitpicks and stuff like that, and things I would have wanted to do differently, and maybe it's going to be addressed in season 2. But one of the big things is I wanted more Dr. Cox. We had him
yeah,
first episode, and then he dips out, and then we have him come back for his arc that will probably continue into season 2.
yeah.
But the show, it's fine without him, but he definitely elevates the show when he's on it.
He is, but I think they needed him to be gone because they needed JD to be able to really take the reins without the safety net, especially since he's now in the Dr. Cox role and like the new guys are like the JD role.
And
So
they also needed John C. McGinley to film for Rooster, another Bill Lawrence show. So
yeah,
he was a
yeah.
little busy.
So as much as I love him as an actor and his character, I think he kind of needed to be gone for that moment. And also with his thing at the end, I would not be surprised if they kill his character off in season two. As sad as that would be, and that would be like a major moment, maybe like the season finale. I wouldn't be surprised if they go that route.
Yeah. I just, you miss him because he's
Yeah,
such a great character. And like, I can live without Kelso on the
yeah,
show. And it was good to have Janitor back. Hopefully we get a little bit more of Neil Flynn. But he was another one that he's not essential, but you do
no,
like when he pops up. Cox to me is a little bit more essential, and I just wanted to see more of him.
yeah. I can see that, and I definitely think that if they do kill him off, I'd hope they'd wait for like their series finale. Like I don't know if they're doing just one more or if they're going to try to keep it going for a while.
Yep.
But and then as far as Dr. Kelso, they did have the big portrait of Dr. Kelso in the hallway, and I'm betting that they could probably get Ken Jenkins to do like a scene, like maybe a cameo. But I mean, he's got to be in his late 80s at the youngest. So
Yeah.
I don't think just physically he's going to be able to come back and do much more than maybe a pop on line here or there.
Yeah, and it makes complete sense too that he wasn't in it, especially for where his character's at.
Yeah.
I wonder if he would, if part of his cameo, if he does have a cameo popping up, would be him getting a muffin at the coffee shop
Oh yeah, that
again.
would be perfect. I think they intentionally left it open for him to come back. Otherwise, I think if they knew he wasn't going to, I think they would find a way to drop in that Kelso died.
Yeah. What wasn't there? And maybe you just had said this, and I was thinking about what I was going to say next. I apologize. But wasn't there something named after Kelso in the show? Wasn't there like a part of the building was like the Kelso something?
That could have been. I'm not going to say it wasn't. I don't remember offhand. All the thing I know for sure is they did have the big portrait of Kelso in the hallway. They had like the portrait of Kelso and the portrait of Dr. Cox as like the chiefs of medicine. So that's kind of like the eagle-eyed, blink and you miss it kind of thing for them.
Yeah. Another thing that I think detracts just a little bit is because of, again, where we are and how we view television. Like when Scrubs first came out, it was primarily a comedy, 90
Yeah,
to 95% a comedy, probably even more than that. And that's when they would have some of those emotional moments, and those emotional moments would hit really hard because so much else of the show was just fun and goofy and absurd. And I felt like they lost that same like mixture, that same balance where they
yeah,
had a little bit more emotional moments in these 8 episodes, and you felt them more because, or 10 episode, 12, whatever it was, you felt them
yeah.
more because there's only that small amount. And I'm like, there's just a little bit too much that they lost it. Like Turk's little bit of depression at the beginning of
Mhm.
the season, and I understand that that's a little bit of explaining why he needs to mellow out as a character, because he was a little bit more mellow than he was
Yeah,
back when we knew him. And that's completely fine. That's how people grow. Like, I hope that I'm a more mellow person in my 40s than I am in my 20s, because I was really annoying in my 20s. But, like, it's fine. It's fine that that's a character thing, but, like, then they played it as, like, a big or serious thing. I'm like, it's not as emotional of a moment as maybe you are wanting it to be as you're writing it.
yeah, and I totally get that. Turk has some good moments, but the show was really focusing, I think, heavily on the JD and Elliot part of it.
Yeah.
And
And I don't think Turk was done dirty the whole season, because
no,
again, he just grow, but he's a different character. He's in a different place, whereas like it didn't feel so much like JD or Elliot or even Cox like really missed a beat in who they
yeah,
were 20 years ago versus who they are now.
yeah, and part of that comedy, like you said, the comedy duo is kind of of now the two nurses who've kind
Yeah.
of taken the Laverne piece of it as well. And I'm mixed on whether or not I like them or not. I haven't really decided.
I don't dislike them. I'm not like, oh, these are great, wonderful new additions. The new characters I did like more, is I thought that they really nailed it with all of the younger interns. I felt, or residents or whatever. I felt like
Yeah,
really all of them were decently strong, even if they aren't super developed quite yet.
yeah,
They all had an individual something. There was a little bit to their story,
Yeah.
and you liked each one of them in their.
Mhm.
Whereas like what was the stupid season in the medical school where it's like
Oh yeah.
Dave Franco's character, like this kid is annoying as crap.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't talk about that season. Yeah, no, the younger cast is good because a lot of them start out so annoying and sufferable because their flaws are put on display first, and then you get to see their story, and you start to like, okay, I'm kind of understanding this now.
Yeah.
Especially the older handsome guy who's kind of just a jerk who's like, well, there's GoFundMe, or if you're handsome like me, there's OnlyFans. But then later on, you start to realize he has this armor of himself that he's chipping away, and he, I think, grew up and had struggles, and which is why he's older than everybody else.
Yeah. The only one that's like a little bit more of like, oh, I might not like their personality, but it ends up working really well. Like, because like I like the jerk doctor guy
Yeah.
who kind of he gets humanized because someone dies when he just didn't care,
Yeah.
and then he's like trying not to replicate that. But I never disliked him right from the beginning, even though he was like vapid, sure. But
Yeah.
then there was the one that was vying for the chief medicine job.
Oh yeah.
That what's his name? I can't remember.
I know I shouldn't say, but it's the Asian doctor.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to just resort to like, yeah, he's the gay Asian guy. Like, well, there's more to him than that. But his character was actually kind of grew on me through the season. I'm like, I understand why we need him, especially with Dr. Cox going, that you have another antagonistic relationship for JD, but this one is an underling and it's someone who reports to him. Whereas like the janitor's antagonism, the janitor didn't care about rank and file, so that didn't matter at all to him. And then Dr. Cox's antagonism to him was as a superior. And so now you have someone underneath JD and they're able to still be that antagonistic relationship, but because they're under him, it's like watch your back sort of vying for the position. And that's a new thing that we get to see for JD that we didn't get to see with other antagonistic relationships. So I actually ended up appreciating him as the season went on. I'm like, I'm up for him being a little bit of a backstabbing, maniacal guy, but at the same time, he was a realistic ladder climber character.
Yeah, because he also was still treating patients, and he wasn't letting it affect his job. But he's gonna within those confines, he's gonna screw up JD as much as he can. And then got to talk a bit about the JD and Elliot. I thought it was kind of a whiplash to be like, all right, now we're divorced and we hate each other.
Yeah. That would maybe be like, I understand why you need to do it that way again, but that's another nitpick. Because like you gave him a happy ending and then you took it away. But at the same, it's the Jim and Pam problem of the last season of The Office too. Is like, how do we make these two characters interesting? If they're together, we have to do something.
Well, they're going to put them back together. It's like, I don't really see it as attention because I know that they broke them apart so they could have a storyline of them getting back together again.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty clear. But the show as a whole, I mean, I just like watching Scrubs again.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. They didn't really miss a beat, and it feels like a great way to do. Another thing for the modern audience with one of the nurses of like her having a social media following. Like that's a great way to modernize it as well. And like, how does modern medicine look when you kind of add that element into it? And like, everyone will look up anything on social media and like, oh, this TikTok doctor says this is the problem, and those sorts of things. So it's good to start acknowledging that side and how things are changing there.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Me too. So where do you want to go next?
Let's do okay. We'll say this for the end. We'll say I was gonna go to Malcolm in the Middle because that's like the closest thing. But let's take a quick deviation here because the paper doesn't quite match like these reboots or reunions sort of things. This is just really strictly a spin-off show. But because we haven't really talked about it and we don't want to dedicate a whole episode to talking about this, we're like, let's just shove it in. So sorry, we're just shoving in the paper haphazardly into this episode for about 10 minutes. If you haven't watched it, we're going to, again, go through the whole season and anything's on the table. So just jump ahead. I don't think this will take us more than like 7 or 8 minutes, to be honest.
No. But I think it does still count because it's still within the same universe. And even I think the big difference is where there's really only one character in Oscar who we're catching up with. Everyone else is new, aside from a quick cameo with Bob Vance.
Yeah.
But it's still the same in the same universe. In this world, everything from The Office still happened. We're just not following them anymore.
Yep. So whenever anyone's like, "Hey, how'd you like the paper? Was it good? Let's talk about it," because it is going to get a second season, but right now it's in season 1, and it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's no characters I'm like, this guy is so great. Like, Ned is a solid lead, but Domhnall Gleeson is a really good actor, so I wasn't surprised at that. And I don't mind this Ned and Mayor will they won't they Jim Pam thing.
I like them, but it's not the same as Jim Pam, obviously.
Yep. But you know how I feel about divas, so we have this Esmeralda in there, and she's palatable.
I like her a lot. She is okay. I know I would not want to be friends with her in real life.
No.
But watching her train wreck on the show, especially, I thought it was genius when she goes up at the award show and starts singing, "Sad, dead journalists, you're dead. I have the microphone now." I mean, that, no notes on that.
She's like a Gina, but I do think she's a little bit more palatable than Gina is.
Yeah. The one I think on that show, I think you could get rid of Ken. You don't need that. You already have the big boss, and then there's Esmeralda, and then there's too many antagonistic like boss figures. I think you get Ken out. You have Marv pop in every now and then as like the David Wallace normal person, and then you have Esmeralda being chaos, and then have Ned be like the normal, like the everyman trying to wave the storm with everyone around him.
I liked Ken a little bit more than Esmeralda, actually. Like, with Ken, that's the character that I felt like they lifted Ricky Gervais's character from The Office and put it into this.
I thought the same thing.
We didn't get to do that with The Office so much, so we're going to do it with the paper, and now we've got Ken, he's the stupid Brit who thinks his way is the best way, but really he's just a jerk.
Yeah.
That's Ken.
I know, but also and some people think complete oppositely, but I mean, David Brent doesn't hold a candle to Michael Scott. So, I mean, I didn't think we needed a new David Brent. Sorry, Ricky Gervais fans.
Yeah. But this show also blew its immediately the will they, won't they with Ned and Mayor. And I think the reason why they were like, okay, let's have them catch at the end of this first season is like, well, they're a boss and subordinate relationship. So that has plenty of drama in and of itself. We don't need to invent the other reasons for why they wouldn't get together. We don't need to have one of them be engaged. You don't have to have other relationship drama. Well, one person's with them and I'm just like, no, the relationship drama is kind of like the Leslie Knope and Ben drama.
Exactly. That's actually a perfect analogy. And I like what they did at the end, though. They kind of faked you out. They make you think they're going down that road because he's outside her hotel room and she's being super secretive. And you think that she's with the guy that she was with at the award show. And you think it's going to be a bit of a Pam and Roy situation. But then she opens up the door and it's Nicole crying over her and Detrick's weird relationship thing. And I love his line, like, this is probably bad to say, but I'm really happy about what I'm seeing in there.
Yeah. See, here's what's funny. I watched this when it came out in September. It was maybe a little bit after that when I watched it. So It's been about 6 months. I can't tell you really anything that happened besides like one or two things in that final episode and the Josh Holloway cameo.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because of freaking Lost, all right? Yeah. Like, you benefit from a much better TV show to make me remember stuff of your current TV show. So,
it's funny though, because a few weeks ago we talked about the Community season 2 finale, and with Josh Holloway was in that too, and we talked about how he's not as big in the public eye now as he was during Lost. Well, I guess when they were talking about this storyline, they needed a celebrity who was well known enough that people would recognize him, but not so well known that if you didn't watch Lost, you may not recognize him, which is kind of a subtle dig, being like, you're famous, but not famous famous. And I guess he was just totally down to do this.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I like that was a pretty funny line, like storyline too, of him getting to play himself and just being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize,"
Except
this cameo.
Except Ned does say, "Hey, by the way, it turns out they were dead the whole time." No, they weren't, Ned. You're stupid.
But to be fair, that is just how people view Lost, and they're wrong. So
They are wrong.
Okay, Brian, I know we're talking about the paper, but we can't, like, I can't bring up Lost and then not go into like other stuff.
Sure.
I almost sent it to you today because I had in my memories on Facebook something, and you commented on it. Oh crud! And I'm already like setting it up, and then I can't remember how do I find memories on my phone.
Well, and if it's not the same day, you lose it.
Okay, here it is. So this is when like Lost had first had its ending, and I'm like, here's how I would do an alternate ending to Lost. So jump back to the end of season 5. This will only take a minute. Jump back to the end of season 5. Juliet detonates the bomb, but what it actually does is it creates this rip in time and space, and it results in those flash sideways, but the flash sideways is actually like another dimension, like a multiverse other place. And so instead of them getting like everything resolved in time travel, so they have this alternate timeline, and in that alternate timeline, flight 815 never crashes. And so you have all these castaways now in their normal time that are aware of this other flash sideways universe, and they're like, wait a second, we have a chance to fix this. And some of the Losties, like with Men in Black kind of leading their charge, are like, wait, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't try and fix it. Let that universe be that universe. Mm-hmm. And then there are other ones who are like, no, we need to fix this. We need to save the people that died. We need to stop this from ever happening. And so the guy who's stuck in the middle is Desmond, the one who actually could bridge that gap. Like for whatever reason, he's the guy that could bring the castaways to like this new reality and make that be real. And so then like the final season is kind of this war over Desmond, and Desmond deciding, do I save these people that I caused the crash in the first place, or do I live in the world where I actually get to be with Penny even though all these people on the plane died? And that's your heart, and that's your decision. And so then I even wrote like, here's how it would end, is like, yeah, he ends up sacrificing for flight 815. They all land in LAX. No one knows anything. They're all like, they are in this new universe. Everything's fine, and they get off the plane, and they're all like happy and everything, and they're where they at. And then like Jack and Kate lock eyes as they're walking off, and there's like a flash of recognition that like, oh, maybe they know each other, and suddenly lost. And that'd be how it would end.
I like that a lot. I think that would be a very, very different direction.
Yes.
I think it probably would be less controversial.
It actually, in my opinion, it might actually be more controversial because people will be like, what? They don't even know each other anymore? The whole thing was pointless?
Well, you realize you also kind of are using elements, without realizing it, I think, of the Manifest finale, which I just watched the other day.
I didn't know that, no. And no. I came up with that 8 years ago.
Well, do you know how Manifest ended?
I don't know how Manifest ended. Okay. I watched one season. I never do this. I never start a show and then don't finish it. But I stopped after the first season for whatever.
Well, reason. I'll give you a couple minutes on Lost. Give me 1 minute on Manifest just to catch you up. So at the end, it's been like 5 years since the plane, jumped 5 years in time and everything. And they end up having to go back on the plane, and they have this like supernatural thing where like the clouded figure of judgment of death like judges everybody, and the people who are bad like burst into ash. And then all of a sudden it lands, the plane just stops midair, and it's all glowing around. And they're like, what is this, heaven or whatever? And they get off the plane, and they've flashed back. They get off the plane 5 years earlier, like when they were supposed to land originally. And like their family members who have died are now just there as if no time ever passed. And the passengers of the plane remember everything for like the past years of the show, but everybody else is like, you just went on a flight. What are you talking about? And even like a guy in it, one of the main guys, his wife had been killed, and he had a baby who had like a 5-year-old daughter in that time. Now his wife's back, and that daughter just doesn't exist. And he makes a comment like, "Oh, well, our 3 kids," and she's like, "We have 2 kids," and he's like, "We got some work to do," which is weird.
No, that's that would be heartbreaking. Your child disappears.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole reason for Tony Stark to be like, keep the 5-year blip.
I know, but also his wife is alive, his mom is alive, everybody else is alive, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, we'll just make her again." Like, it's weird. I kind of like it, but it's weird. Yeah. Anyways, this tangent on a tangent. Should we go to Malcolm in the Middle now?
No, I'll give you the final. This is less than time than you took or I took. But this movie, with speaking of Domhnall Gleeson and talk about like your kids and changing things with time travel. So Domhnall Gleeson, he is in this movie with Bill Nye, not Bill Nye the Science Guy, but like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Actor, and so he is like a character who he can go through time. Every male in his family can travel through time. They just go into a dark closet or dark space and then just imagine where they want to travel to, and then they come out of there and like that's where they're at. And so he changes something to make things better for his sister, but in doing so it changes his like son or something like that, or he had like a son or a daughter, and it changes them to the other gender, so like a completely different person, because it like. And then when he comes back, his dad's like, no, you never go back to a time before like your kids, because it'll affect all this stuff that, you know, like not to be perverse, but like it'll affect the time that the DNA went into, you know. And so he's like, so he had to like choose in order to save the kid that he had known that he was raising. He had to like let his sister kind of suffer a little bit, some of the bad things in life that she went through. So it reminded me of that.
What was that called?
It's either About Time or In Time. I think it's called About Time.
That sounds like something good. I might want to check that out.
It's actually a really good movie, and it's got like some really good emotion in it too. I wouldn't say it'll make you cry, but it has some stuff that's like, this is really sweet and some good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, it is About Time, just so everyone knows. About Time, that's a good movie. All right, now we'll actually move on to Malcolm in the Middle, something that actually did have, again, it didn't make me cry, but actually still had some good emotion that I completely didn't expect in these 4 episodes.
I had mostly good things to say about it. Basically one kind of great, but I know I was a huge Malcolm in the Middle fan, and actually I just rewatched the series last year, so it was all pretty fresh in my mind. And I thought they got the tone of it so well.
I think you're right. I've seen Malcolm in the Middle episodes. I don't remember a whole lot. Thankfully, I remembered one of the few things I remember from Malcolm in the Middle. They did a callback to is like when Stevie was like supporting Malcolm, who was in a fight, and Malcolm like this bully goes to punch Malcolm and he misses, and he like the bully barely taps on Stevie's chin, and so then Stevie like completely throws his wheelchair over to like sell the punch to make it look like, oh, this bully just punched a kid in a wheelchair. And so then when he uses that same thing in the final episode, I'm like, I got the reference. It's great.
I know. And then Malcolm's like, Stevie, that doesn't work for everything. And even though they seemed a little forced, I mean, there was 3 times that they've made nods to cast members who've passed away, with their grandma at the funeral, who, I mean, she was a great character. I mean, obviously they couldn't bring her back. And with the military school teacher and with the ranch owner. All 3 of them, those actors have passed away, but they had little nods to them with photos.
Yeah. And that was a show that, like I said, I've watched a couple episodes. It never really was for me, because I'm not the, like, watch dysfunctional families, and they're not like that. There's dysfunction in it, but it's just exaggerated dysfunction, where like there's some really bad like dysfunctional families where it's like, you need CPS in here. They're just like,
Yeah.
They're very loud and they're very hard on their sleeve, and they're not all that smart, minus Malcolm. And even Malcolm isn't very emotionally smart. He's just, book smart.
Yeah.
So like it was one of those hard sells for me, but like watching this, I'm like, I actually appreciate these episodes more than I think I did appreciate any of the Malcolm in the Middle episodes I did watch back in the 2000s.
Yeah. I think it's good. And like one of the things that I think they did really well subtly was, so Francis, the oldest son, who in the original series, he almost had his own like extra sitcom. He was never really with the family that much. He was always off at military school or working at a ranch and different stuff. He always had a very contentious relationship with Lois, with the mom, where like they could never really, even though they loved each other, there's always that tension. And then to have him like announce he's pregnant, or that his wife is pregnant, and then to have Lois kind of brush that off, and then he obsesses over being so far down on her priority list. That is like just like their dynamic. Not to mention, I was thinking, he doesn't realize that he's the only one of all of his siblings who's on that priority list in a positive way. Malcolm and Reese were on that list in a negative way. The other three kids didn't even make her priority list. He's the only one who's there, but because he's so low, he can't just take the win. He has to badger her and badger her and badger her about it.
Yeah, and everyone in that family has these obsessive tendencies,
Oh, yeah.
like, and they all manifest in completely different ways. But,
Yeah.
so I only remembered them having the 4 kids. I didn't remember the.
Okay.
Is
So
that later?
Yeah, well, I'll give you some lore. So originally there was 4. It was, Francis, Reese, Malcolm, and Dewey.
Yep.
Jamie, who was the one who wasn't in it much, who was out at military school, he was born during the season 5. So he was like a baby and a toddler towards the end of the series. They had like a blank slate to go with him. Then at the series finale, they could have just washed over this, but one of the last things you see in the final episode was Lois holding up a pregnancy test saying that she's pregnant again, and Hal screaming like, "Oh no!" And that was Kelly. And then to have the running joke that they never had a girl, they have a girl, and then it turns out that she comes out as non-binary, is like the joke that they can't really get a girl.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So those 2 other ones I didn't have any. So I was like, oh, these are siblings. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they had to put Jamie in because Jamie was part of the show for like 3 seasons, but they went for it with adding Kelly in there, and then obviously I don't know if you remember, Piama was Francis's wife, so she was also on the show for the last few seasons as well. Kind of on.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they like had added her, but
yeah,
I did know that with the Dewey actor that they replaced him.
Yeah,
do you know why this Dewey was pretty much on a screen the entire time?
I think it was because kind of to hide the fact that it was a different Dewey, but everybody knew that. And that was a bummer because Dewey was my favorite character. And I thought this actor did so well. I think it's Caleb Ellsworth something. I know it's Caleb something who plays Dewey. He played Dewey so well. And I think you could have easily had him be there, part of the main cast, and have him be there more. And I think it would have worked better to have Dewey actually there than just on a screen for most of the time.
Yeah, I think so. Let's hit your nitpick real quick, and then we'll talk about the things that they really did well. Because there's some we've already hit some things that they did well. My nitpick for me was I'm never a fan of drug-induced acid trip storylines.
Yeah,
and so like Hal saying like, sure, okay, that's how you needed to resolve whatever he was going through, and like how he could get out of the way so that Lois could like have a role in that relationship too. Okay, I get that, but I wish there was a better way they could have done it. It felt a little weird. It wasn't funny to me. Whatever.
It took too much time. I mean, and there was great stuff. I loved Hal singing with the guys at which is another callback. That group of guys that Hal became poker friends with. Eventually, they did become a singing group, doing that song and dance for them, and then Craig joining them in the store in like the Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't remember them, do you?
I don't. I just was like, hey, it's the dad from Smart Guy. That's all I knew.
Yeah, but the joke was, so Abe is Stevie's dad. He was already on the show.
Yep.
And then he gets in this poker group, and it's a big bait and switch because You can tell the tensions are awkward, and you think he's about to say, "You're treating me different because I'm white," but then he says, "They're like, just say it, just say it." He's like, "You're treating me different because I'm not a professional." And they're like, "What?" "Yeah, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a dentist. I'm just a working staff." And you realize he felt insecure, nothing to do with race, and it kind of really threw you for a loop. And these guys they weren't on all the time, but every now and then they would show up as a group. And there was an episode where they did a big singing group, and so they've done that before, and they didn't have to bring these guys back, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a couple people like in that at the anniversary party, like the friends from, like his Malcolm's friends from high school and the friends from like the boarding school or military school. Like they were probably from the original show that they
They
didn't
were.
have to bring back, and same thing.
Yeah, but also it's kind of clunky because Francis was only in the military school for the first 2 seasons. He hasn't seen these guys, even by the end of the original show, he hadn't seen these guys in like 5 years. And now 20 years later, they're invited to his parents' reunion or whatever, vow renewal.
Yeah.
My other nitpick is one thing they only addressed with one line was with Reese. One thing they found in the series was that he is an amazing chef. Like he is a screw up, and he is like has like no moral compass. And they only mentioned in the Christmas flashback when Malcolm's like, "Reese, you made a great dinner." They did nothing with that whole like character development of him.
I did remember that he was a great chef. I remember that part.
But the whole thing of Malcolm having a daughter that is just like Malcolm, and his daughter does the thing that Malcolm does of talking to the camera and being so smart that like it works to her disadvantage. I thought that was brilliant because she was like another little Malcolm.
I agree completely. I thought that was a great way to have her as a character. Also, when you write teens, bad writers will write them like it's really easy to pigeonhole your teen character into a spot that they become annoying because teens are embarrassed by their parents. They are emotional. They are unsure of themselves and they make dumb decisions. There's a lot of things that you can put on teens that are negative, and the writers did a really good job of having some of those things on her, but to not let her be annoying. And props as well to the actress because that's also part acting. Is that there's that vibe that you give out, and so she was able to not. She was more endearing than a teen usually is in a show like this, and so I did really like her and her arc and her little niche of like not niche, her gimmick of talking to the camera the same way Malcolm did, and I'm like, this is a really fantastic way to give us her inner monologue, and while still keeping it Malcolm in the middle, but you're passing the torch to her. I agree completely.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to talk about Jane Kaczmarek and Bryan Cranston. Hal and Lois definitely carried a lot of this, and they both did amazingly well. And Bryan Cranston didn't have to do this. He after being Walter White, he didn't, and he was the one who was championing to do this. Like this would not have happened without him.
Yeah, and those two didn't miss a beat from when they were in this show. They were both great, and in fact, So this is what I really liked about the show, especially with Jane. What's her character's name? Lois, that's the one. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys, I'm tired. Especially with Lois, I love the Lois and Malcolm in the bathroom thing. There's the poop humor and the fart jokes and stuff like that. It's like a little much, but I get it. But I really liked the emotion of that scene because what I really appreciated of it is Malcolm finally saying what he was feeling and how he blamed his parents for who he was and how screwed up he was and only seeing these negatives. And yet when he's saying these negatives, he's also talking about the things in his life and like how he's like, there's so much good going on in his life. And it ends up being like, oh, maybe I do owe that to my parents. And, Lois is like, oh, that's just good parenting. I'm like, maybe it wasn't the best parenting. Let's be honest. But at the same time, there is like this thing where it's like the parents aren't there to be your friends. The parents are there to push you to who you need to be. And if sadly they have to be the villains for a little bit of your life while you're trying to figure things out and they're just the easy targets, that happens unfortunately. But as a parent watching this, it's like I really liked seeing that emotion of it. and for him to realize, like, sure, they annoy the crap out of me, but they've really helped me be who I am.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's so easy to hate Lois because sometimes she's very unlikable, but
Yeah.
to know that they're very flawed parents, but they do really care about their parents, and Lois really will fight to give her kids an upper hand, even if they don't see it.
Yeah.
And
And sure, like she's like other TV moms where she can be controlling.
yeah,
100%. And so, like, did she do it the right way? Who knows? But
yeah,
at the same time, like, she did see the good in Malcolm and really wanted to give him something. And like, it's really funny. It's like, oh, you could be president. He's like, can you imagine the pressure? I'm like, see, and the thing that I also liked about that is it also is a cultural conversation, because
yeah,
there is people, millennials and younger, there's like, we've had so much pressure put on us, but at the same time, there our parents or those that we respect in authority that are older are like, maybe they're like, I want the best for you, and maybe I didn't do it the right way and you have to sit with the pressure of it, but really, if you could see, I was just pushing because I know that you could handle it. And so it's a really good conversation. It becomes really,
yeah.
like, uh, um, insightful for generations. And you
Mhm.
got that from a stinking Malcolm in the Middle reboot. Holy
Yeah.
crap! I was really impressed.
When you get the generations, because that's a good thing you mentioned, because we'd mentioned the grandma Ida, played by Cloris Leachman in the original series, who was just an awful person and an awful mother. And you see a lot of Lois's basically like, I know what it's like to grow up with an awful parent. So she had that toughness, but she's like, I am going to use this toughness for good, whereas her mom used it for evil.
Yeah. And then you have Malcolm now turn around, and how he's raising his daughter is very considerate of her feelings, but it's also not preparing her with the emotional social strength to rise to the challenge in her high school. And so
Yeah,
then when she finally, like, gets some of these people who are like, I'm going to tell it how it is, I'm going to be loud, and like, I can handle your emotions because my emotions are just as big. We're all
yeah,
humans, our emotions are big. I can handle when you have bad emotions. Yell at me. Like, for her to feel that freedom now, be like, oh wait, maybe I can have some more confidence and learn how to be myself in a different way with them.
yeah,
It's a good
absolutely.
conversation to have.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And can I point out two little Easter eggs that I don't know if you may have missed? One was, Francis says, like, I'm 39. I was born on your first anniversary, not your wedding. And Lois is like, yeah. That was a flashback to the original series that Lois is clearly pregnant, going into labor at her wedding. And she's like, no, this baby is not going to be born out of wedlock. They're like, yeah, he's 40, but he doesn't know.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
one of the few episodes I remember. I do remember, like, the
yeah,
when all of them are born episode.
yeah.
Because I
And
remember,
then
was it Reese that it was the birth of, where it's like they one of the kids locks them out of the car,
I
and so
think,
she
no,
gives birth on the lawn.
I think that was Malcolm.
And I remember that scene because, like, I really liked that scene of, like, the no, tell me why this is worth it, and then Hal tells her, like, all these things that he loves about her.
Yeah.
That scene's one that has always stuck with me since seeing it.
It's funny you don't remember Jamie, because I think that was all leading up to her giving birth to Jamie during the show.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Maybe.
The other one was the red dress that Lois is wearing at the reunion. Do you remember the big episode in the first season with the red dress?
I don't. Nope.
So back then, Lois and Hal were going to go out for their anniversary, and Lois ends up not going because she finds her dress that she was going to be wearing, like, burned and thrown in the toilet to put out the fire, and she gets furious with Reese, Malcolm, and Dewey, and, like, because they're playing with fire and none of them will admit to it, and she, like, basically is torturing them the entire night, basically trying to get a confession out of them. All the while, Hal's at the restaurant by himself getting stood up. And then in a flashback, at the end of the episode, you find out it was Hal who accidentally, like, lit a cigarette and, like, threw it in the toilet. So all along this whole episode, it was Hal who ruined the dress, not the kid, not the boys.
Yep.
But now, after all these years, she finally gets to wear the nice red dress to her reunion. Or I keep saying reunion; it's their anniversary.
Anniversary. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in this show, and it
yeah,
like I won't say it made me want to go back and watch Malcolm in the Middle, but it
yeah.
definitely made me appreciate Malcolm in the Middle a little bit more than maybe I did going into it.
I would say maybe look up like a highlight episode. There's you could watch like a couple episodes here and there without doing the whole series.
Yeah, I think I can remember bits and pieces of like 10 different episodes, but
Yeah,
yeah, not a lot under my belt. I
yeah,
don't have that much time to watch these TV shows. I only watch TV all day, every day at my work. So
yeah. We get to the end of the like, oh, best of 2025. You're like, I watched 40 shows.
you're like, I had one. Brian,
Yeah,
this last month, April, was a big month for me in Gary, Indiana. First of all, I went to Gary for a work trip and I was there for a couple days. The week after, I went to go see Michael, and they're like, "Hey, Michael Jackson, this little kid from Gary, Indiana." I'm like, "Hey, Gary, I was just there." A week later, out of the blue, the Bears like, "Hey, I know we've got coming up this summer. We're gonna another season of the Bear. We're just gonna out of the blue." Throw out this random episode called Gary. It's not
yep,
even under the Bear like TV episodes. It says like Gary season 1, but it's not really season, it's just one episode. It's like a mini TV movie with John Bernthal and Eben, oh, what is his name? The Richie,
yeah.
aka
Right,
the
there's
Thing
Richie.
from Fantastic Four. It's Ebon something. That's
Yeah,
that's his name. So I was like, Brian, because we talked about the Bear,
yeah.
we'll talk about this episode. And that was before I watched it, and I watched it. I'm like, oh, Brian's gonna hate this.
You are correct. My life could have been much better if you hadn't suggested I watch this.
So here's what's good about this. So this is again gonna be spoilers for that episode. But here's what I thought was really good about this is because the Bear has always been about like the pressures of doing something great with talent when you are so encumbered by yourself, by the mental illness that you walk with, or by the addictions that you might have. It's not as much about addiction for Mikey as it is for his brother. Um, why am I blanking on John Bernthal's name in that?
That's Mikey.
Oh, he's Mikey. You're right.
Yeah,
Carm is duh. That's why I'm blanking on his name. It's not
yeah,
the addiction part isn't so much there for Carm, but it is definitely there for Mikey.
yeah,
And this episode is just like it really highlights how destructive the wrong friendship can be, even if like the actual love and appreciation is in there. But if you're friends with someone who's really struggling with this one, it can take such a toll on you. So this episode, we won't take a long time with it, but the episode like starts where they have to go to Gary, and because they have to kill time, Mikey is trying to get Richie, or no, like Richie is trying to pull Mikey out of his funk because he can tell he's got like this little bit of depression still, and everyone knows like Mikey's going through it, but they just don't know how to fix it. And so Richie's trying to get Mikey into like a good spot, and so it's like, hey, there's this bar, let's go into this bar, we're gonna have fun. And Mikey's like, no, I'm not gonna do that, I'm not. And so he stays out there. So Richie like has been pulling and pulling and tries to get him out there. Eventually Richie goes in the bar, and someone comes out, gets Mike, and is able to talk Mike to come into the bar with him. Mikey starts drinking, and then he gets into his pattern of self-destruction because he overindulges in alcohol. He gets a little drunk, and then he also does some drugs in the bathroom as well. And
yeah,
so he falls back into that same pattern of an addict. And then at the end of the episode, what he does is like he just completely tears down Richie, and Richie just has to kind of like stand there and take it, and just like you see the hopelessness that Mike was walking around with, and like how he knows he's just this problem. So he like pushes Richie away with this big monologue that he's doing, and like it's so real for anyone who has ever been friends with someone who's dealt with addiction or self-loathing or etc. And it's just this train wreck that's hard to watch. No idea that would be the episode. So I'm like, Gary, I know the Bear, let's watch it. I'm like, oh, this is depressing.
yeah. And I get I'm glad you talked first. It does do those things really well, and you do see like the underlying thing of all the addiction and stuff. On a surface level, it's just so hard to see people but just be like complete jerks to each other,
Oh
and
yeah.
also just avoid like make huge mistakes that are completely unavoidable. He promised his pregnant girlfriend that he would be back at 5:15 because she's probably going to go into labor, and he's like, I can wait longer. Like, no, don't hedge your bets. Be back at 4. Like,
Yeah. As we're watching this, Angie's just like, I can't imagine like just talking to people the way that those guys talk to each other.
yeah,
Like there's a difference between like, you and I will rib each other a little bit, right? We'll make
a
fun
little
of
bit,
each
yeah,
other. We'll take our shots just because, but we both know we love each other. So it's
yeah,
not like, and sure, they might love each other, but good gravy from like an outsider's point of view, they're like a bickering married couple that's like, at any point, one of them is just going to fly off the handle and just not be able to handle what the other person is saying. And it's just like, I don't want to hang out with a ticking time bomb, especially if I'm a ticking time bomb myself.
yeah. Exactly, and there's a difference. You and me will like make like very surface level jokes. Like I'll make fun of you for saying a word wrong. I won't like say you should leave your family because they'll be better off without you. That's a different. That's different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Why haven't you killed yourself yet? I haven't got around to it. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
So, yeah, like, because I do know what it is. Like, I'll be a little honest here. I do know what
yeah,
it is to like not like yourself, and
yeah,
I've seen myself when I was younger. Like, I can look back at my behavior now and be like, oh, there's sometimes I like push people away because I'd be like, I don't deserve to have people in my life who do care about me. And so it's like
yeah,
when you see yourself, but obviously very exaggerated, it makes it even more uncomfortable to be like, oh man, was I ever like that? Well, probably a little bit, and
yeah.
that sucks that I ever had a little bit of that in me. So
Oh yeah. One thing I like to say is we're usually our own worst critic.
yep.
I know I am for sure.
And I mean, they do a good job then of writing them of like you see how they're their own worst critic, and they don't say like, sure, John Bernthal had like this monologue in the bathroom when he's talking to that girl with him, and like you
Yeah,
see a little bit more insight into how much he hates himself and how much he's just like, I just want it to end, sort of guy. But there wasn't even all that much of like, let me explain why I hate myself. It's just like you really saw it if you were reading between the lines and like where they're at in their mental state.
yeah,
At no point in the episode, I think, do they even use the word depressed, because like it's very clearly
yeah.
Mikey's depressed. And
Well, and Reggie's going through stuff too.
yeah, and that's a fair point too. It's like it's easy to pass over Richie, but it's like, his girlfriend's pregnant and she's gonna have a baby any day, and things seem to be going good for Richie, but you can just
Yeah,
tell there's something that he's still trying to fill too.
yeah. And then so at the very end of the episode, this is all a flashback. And at the very end, it cuts to Richie present day thinking about it, and then he gets T-boned into a bad car accident. Do you think that he's going to be in like serious medical like issues, or like maybe in the new season he'll just be like walking with a limp, or what do you think? How do you think that's going to be
I think
leading into?
they're definitely gonna use that as a launching point, because I mean, like
Yeah,
what he was wearing was exactly what he was wearing in that last conversation they had in the season finale of the Bear season
yeah,
4. So it's like that flash or that little moment takes place probably like right after that conversation with like, okay,
yeah,
we're gonna do something great with it. Maybe we'll actually get our feet in front of each other, and then boom, he has that happen. So I don't think it's just gonna be like, oh, I've got a limp. I think it's gonna be like he almost died, and then like his road to recovery while also trying to figure out how do we fix the bear.
true. Remind me, was he still working with the Bear at the end, or did he quit?
Yeah, because Carmi was the one who I think technically quit, and he handed it over to those three to take care, like
Oh
uh,
yeah,
Richie and Sugar and
Sydney.
Ayo, whatever her name is in the show, Ayo
Sydney, yeah,
Bear. I completely if okay. We last week in the episode you talked about this list you have of things I've missaid. Please
yeah.
don't put Ayo Eddie like I completely just threw out syllables as her last name right then. Okay, again, 4.5 hours of sleep, guys. That's where I'm
Also,
from.
correct me if I'm wrong. Looking back, all the way back to the beginning of this episode, in the Muppet Special, Gonzo's stunt was that he was going to be listing all the Academy Award or Oscar nominations for Best Supporting Actor. I think he says her name.
No, because she doesn't win an Oscar. He says maybe it was Lupita that he said her name.
Yeah, he said Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, because she won for 12 Years a Slave.
Gotcha. Yeah, by the way, the character was Sydney. That's what you're thinking of.
Sydney. That's a much easier name to say when you're tired than.
Yeah.
Because I know I could probably spell it E-D-I. Oh, no, I couldn't. E-D-E. Eddie Beery. If I said it slowly.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it's going to start out where they don't realize he's had an accident first? Maybe he doesn't show up for work and they're wondering, like, did he not show up because he's mad? And it takes him a little bit to realize he's in the hospital?
Easily could be. It could also be another way to get Britta back into this. That she still has emergency contact. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, I think if he's in the hospital, she's definitely going to make it at least an appearance.
Or Josh Brolin, he just shows up, hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh man! Every time that actress Jillian Jacobs, she shows up in something, I'm just like, oh, Britta's in this. Just every time, just instinctually, I can't help it.
Mm-hmm. I was talking about it every time. So, do you have anything else to say the bear? I have a weird segue to go to.
I'm ready for your segue. Let's do it.
Okay. So, so next week we're going to be talking about Survivor Season 11, Guatemala. And this also, while we're recording this, I know you're not, Matt, but I've been watching along Survivor Season 50, which is currently airing. And a podcast that has been covering it came out of the blue. It's called Pod Meets Twirled, which it's Ryder Strong and Will Friedle from Boy Meets World, who are also watching through this show, because they started the podcast talking about Dancing with the Stars and then the Traitors. Now they're watching Survivor, and I guess they got invited by CBS to go to the finale of Survivor this week, tomorrow, when we're recording this.
Nice. That's a very weird circumstance. Yeah. All right.
But when I'm listening to their podcast, so the whole thing is Ryder Strong has watched a lot of Survivor, and Will Friedle only watched like the first season, so he's very new. Every episode, Will Friedle asks Ryder, like, hey, has this ever happened? Or what normally happens with this in Survivor? And I'm thinking in my head, he's going to get this wrong. And then Ryder Strong will say answer the question, but he'll get all the details wrong. He's like, oh, no, this has never happened. I'm like, yes, it did. It happened in this season. Have these two people ever been on a scene together? No, yes, they were. And it's just every single time he answers a question, he answers with such confidence, and he's always wrong. And it's both hilarious and frustrating to me.
It's like that joke in, I think it's Kung Pao Into the Fist, where it's like, we trained him wrong on purpose as a joke. Like, Ryder knows the answers, but he's just giving Will all the wrong things. I've always joked as like, what if with our kids, like, not our kids, you and me, because I don't know. But like, what if with my kids, I decided I was going to have a control and a test subject, like one of them we train wrong and one of them we train right. And then we just see which one is a better member of society. And we could, give the ultimate scientific test. Obviously we didn't have twins, so we couldn't really do a blind study. I'm just kidding, everyone. I'm a good father. Don't call CPS. You don't know me.
You don't name names, but do you know which one you would raise wrong on purpose?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we already kind of do.
I don't know your kids well enough to predict. I've actually only met the older two.
I didn't have an answer. Like, if you would have asked me to say who it was, I didn't have an answer. I just knew.
I know. That's why I say. It's like that Jim Gaffigan joke. He's like, I have two great kids. Everyone goes, "Aw," and another kid.
I do that same joke too. I do that constantly. Not specifically with my kids, but just like there's four people. It's like, man, I'm so blessed to have you guys. I love three of you so much.
Yeah. I think as long as one, they know you're kidding, and two, you don't name names, then it works. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like there's been once or twice I'll make that joke to the kids and they know I'm joking, but then like one of them will say, oh, this one. And like, no, don't make it personal. That's not the joke. The joke isn't like, hey, let's ostracize one of my kids on purpose. The joke
Did you
is, well, which one of us would it be?
did you and Angie ever? There was a trend that I think like a couple years ago. I know Laura and Paul did it with their kids, where you have your kids all having like leaning over like a bowl of like ice water or something, and you have the parents behind, and you ask like, who is the most dramatic, and they dunk the kid's head, or who gets in trouble the most, or who's gonna be richest when they grow up, you think, and like you ask these random questions, and you dunk the kid's face in water if they're the answer to that question.
That just seems like a sneaky way to baptize them. They're not going to choose Jesus for themselves. I got this. TikTok challenge. Here we go.
Yeah.
You're getting to heaven whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Some denominations believe baptism is required for heaven, others don't. Just so all of you people out there, let's get into theology now. All right, moving on.
So then, so as we already said, next week we're going back onto the Survivor train with season 11, Guatemala.
Let's get into trivia then. Sorry,
Yeah,
I was expecting you to mow us down. Because I don't remember last week's trivia. Man, I did so well. For 4.5 hours of sleep, I did so well up to this point in the episode.
I'd give you slack, except I told you the trivia before we started recording this, but I'll take it.
You did.
Last week we talked about Friends and the finale and the premiere. And I said, outside of the main 6 friends, there's only one character whose name is in more than one episode title. And that, you think, oh, Gunther or Janice or the Gellers or Marcel. No, it's Eddie. Remember Eddie? Chandler's weird roommate he had for like 3 episodes in season 2? Yeah. Because there's the one where Eddie moves in and the one where Eddie won't go. Outside of the 6 friends, he's the only one to have 2 episode titles with his name in it.
Good job, Eddie.
Yeah.
People said you'd never amount to anything, but here you are. 2 episodes.
And actually, I did think of one, unless you have another one.
Go for it.
So on another podcast I listened to, I recently got confirmation that there is at least one Muppet in the 2025, or there's at least one Muppet in the new special that is an original puppet from the original show 50 years ago. So what character is an original puppet that Jim Henson may have put on himself?
How did I know that whatever trivia we came up with this episode, it would be Muppets related?
It's good odds. And also, I just listened to this. I just found this out like a few weeks ago. So
that's fair. You're like, we covered a wide range. We could talk about Gary, Indiana. The place that I've been to a number of times and that I talk with like every day. I send emails to Gary all the time. Not the whole city, guys, just people in it. But I'm good friends.
Not any less weird.
It's a steel town. I work in steel. It's a steel town. There's a lot of steel towns surrounding the state, the Great Lakes, or the State Lakes, as I was about to say, because I'm ready to go to bed. All right, well, that is it for the episode. I'm going to take an Ambien, and until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.